Oscar Wilde's masterpiece, The Picture of Dorian Gray, is a chilling tale of beauty, obsession, and the price of immortality. A handsome young man named Dorian Gray makes a Faustian bargain, wishing for eternal youth while his portrait bears his age and the marks of his corrupted soul. The novel is a creation of Wilde's imagination, but what if the world within Wilde's words was rooted in reality? Welcome to Dorian Gray's London, Chelsea's lost Bohemian Paradise. Here, we'll explore the hidden alleyways and forgotten corners of the Chelsea waterfront, searching for the inspiration behind Wilde's haunting story. The novel tells us of a chance encounter between artist Basil Hallward, captivated by a young man named Dorian Gray, and his friend, Lord Henry Wotton, a charismatic cynic. Their introduction sets in motion a fateful chain of events as Dorian's portrait becomes a chilling reflection of his corrupted soul. But wait, before we lose ourselves in the fictional world, let's turn to the real Chelsea. In the Victorian era, Chelsea was a haven for artists, writers, and dreamers. Was this vibrant artistic community the seed from which Wilde's captivating story was inspired? After all, it was in his ground floor library at 34 Tite Street that Wilde is said to have penned the novel, just a short stroll from the Thames waterfront. But it hadn't always been this way. Step back in time, just a few decades before Oscar Wilde penned his masterpiece, The Picture of Dorian Gray. This Chelsea, a world vastly different from the one Dorian Gray would come to know. Take a close look at this bustling riverside scene. Notice the narrow, winding streets and the close proximity of the river to the houses. This was Pre-Embankment Chelsea, a place where the River Thames lapped right at the doorstep. In these days, the river offered the best means of getting around and would have been alive with boats and ships, the shoreline a hive of activity. The construction of the Thames embankment in the 1860s not only reshaped the landscape, but also marked a turning point for Chelsea. With the river pushed back, new avenues and grand buildings replaced the old, transforming Chelsea from a working class neighbourhood to a trendy artistic hub. This shift in infrastructure mirrored a change in demographics. The area that once housed fishermen, dock workers, and artisans began to attract artists, writers, and intellectuals drawn by the new Bohemian atmosphere. As we delve deeper into Dorian Gray's London, keep this transformation in mind. This Chelsea, raw and dynamic, was the breeding ground for the artistic spirit that would inspire Oscar Wilde's masterpiece. While the grand avenues and imposing buildings mark the post-embankment era, traces and references to the old Chelsea still remain, if you know where to look. Take a stroll along the famous Cheyne Walk, a path that existed long before the river was pushed back, and whose buildings would have been right at the shoreline of the Thames. Imagine artists and writers, like the ones that inspired Wilde, taking the same walk and soaking in the vibrant atmosphere. The revered romantic painter, J.M.W. Turner, was a resident on Cheyne Walk during his lifetime, and whose interiors create an environment not unlike those in the description of Basil's studio in the novel. Or visit the historic Holy Trinity Church, a testament to Chelsea's rich history that predates the dramatic transformation, and acts as a reference point in the old paintings of the area that otherwise bear very little resemblance to the waterfront today. Even the tranquil Physic Garden, established centuries ago, whispers stories of a bygone era. These remnants serve as a reminder of the dynamic Pre-Embankment Chelsea, a place that laid the foundation for the artistic haven that blossomed in Dorian Gray's time. Let's now imagine Victorian Chelsea, a place teeming with creative energy. Unlike the opulent estates of Mayfair, this wasn't a world of aristocratic privilege. Here, we find a fascinating mix, aspiring artists from working class backgrounds alongside those of upper middle class means, not unlike the relationship between Lord Henry and the artist Basil from the novel. What drew them all to Chelsea? Affordable rents for spacious studios were a major pull. Compared to the exorbitant costs of central London, Chelsea offered a haven for artists to create without breaking the bank. But there was something more. Chelsea pulsed with a unique atmosphere, a Bohemian spirit that fostered collaboration and a sense of belonging. This artistic community wasn't just about creating art. It was about sharing ideas, pushing boundaries, and challenging the status quo. And this spirit of rebellion resonated with a particular artistic movement that flourished here, the Pre-Raphaelites. These artists, with their emphasis on bright colours and meticulously detailed religious or historic scenes, broke away from the classical styles favoured by the establishment. Dante Rossetti, one of the founders of the movement, lived on Cheyne Walk. With his flowing red hair and unconventional lifestyle, Rossetti embodied the Bohemian spirit. The Pre-Raphaelites rebelled against the stuffy historical paintings of the time. Their Chelsea studios became a hub of artistic activity, attracting other like-minded individuals. The presence of the Pre-Raphaelites in Chelsea not only put the area on the map as a centre for artistic innovation, but their focus on beauty and morality also holds a fascinating connection to our story. Could the captivating beauty of Dorian Gray's portrait and the Faustian bargain he strikes be a reflection of the Pre-Raphaelite preoccupation with the aesthetics and consequences of transgression? As Lord Henry says in the book, to influence a person is to give him one's own soul. Going outside to take a break from painting, Henry's corrupting influence on the impressionable Dorian stands in stark contrast to the detailed beauty of the artist Basil's garden that Wilde offers us. Amazingly, a theme echoed in real life. The very intersection here at the start of Lots Road was once a part of Victorian London's most iconic gardens, a place renowned not for its flowers, but for its lively entertainment and some would say debauchery. Imagine a bustling pleasure garden, a Victorian playground for Londoners of all classes. This vibrant scene wouldn't be found in Hyde Park, but on the banks of the Thames, to the westerly beginning of the King's Road. The site was originally home to a grand mansion, which passed into the hands of the first Viscount Cremorne in the 18th century. A few decades later, this very estate became renowned throughout London as Cremorne Gardens. From the 1840s to the late 1870s, it operated as an oasis of entertainment, attracting crowds with a potent mix of music, spectacle, balloon-ascents, and a touch, or perhaps a barrelful, of scandal. Balconies provided space for dancing and socialising, while refreshment booths offered everything from ice cream to stronger beverages. A unique feature was the lounge, a 2,000-foot-long covered walkway that meandered through the gardens, allowing visitors to stroll and flirt in privacy, or so they hoped. Cremorne Gardens became hugely popular, attracting a diverse clientele. Wealthy Londoners flocked to Cremorne, drawn by the novelty and a chance to mingle with the in-crowd. Carriages lined the entrance, and fashionable attire was a must. Writers, painters, and actors rubbed shoulders with society figures, adding a touch of bohemian flair. This vibrant mix of people fueled the creative spirit of Chelsea's artistic community. However, Cremorne Gardens also had a darker side. Pickpockets, prostitutes, and even con artists saw the gardens as a fertile hunting ground. Scandal sheets revelled in the tales of illicit affairs, drunken brawls, and gambling dens hidden within the labyrinth walkways. This reputation for loose morals adds a layer of irony, considering the very spot was once a tranquil mansion estate. As Lord Henry says, the only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. Interestingly, James McNeill Whistler, a famous American artist who lived a stone's throw from the Cremorne Gardens here on Cheyne Walk, captured its atmosphere in his paintings. Whistler, a one-time friend of Oscar Wilde, was a major proponent of the arts for art's sake philosophy, which emphasises the beauty of art without moral or personal meaning attached. This philosophy resonates throughout the picture of Dorian Gray, with Basil's fear of revealing too much of himself in his portrait, and Dorian's eventual pact to preserve his youthful appearance. Some even believe Wilde based the character of Basil on Whistler himself, a theory fueled by their later falling out. Today, the land that once housed the iconic Cremorne Gardens has been transformed by new roads and housing such as the Cremorne estate. It's hard to imagine that these busy streets and residences were once the site of such an intriguing attraction. For those of us seeking a little of the magic, a visit to the remaining vestige of Cremorne Gardens at the waterfront is still possible. We can walk right through the same iron gate that the Victorian revellers would have, and explore the small park that stands as a reminder of Chelsea's fascinating history. Additionally, the two attached jetties echo the landing stages where visitors to the original pleasure gardens would disembark from boats arriving from Battersea across the river. Boat wasn't the only way to arrive at Cremorne Gardens in the 19th century. Lit by gas lamp, Battersea Bridge was then a wooden toll bridge, a crossing almost as perilous as the ferry in the strong currents. This bridge has been immortalised in paintings by local luminaries such as Turner and Whistler. The image you see here is a work by Walter Greaves, Whistler's protege. The son of a local waterman who once ferried Turner himself on the Thames, Greaves was taught to paint by Whistler and went on to document the area before the embankment's completion in 1874. He was another influential artist based on the Cheyne Walk. By the time that Dorian sat in Basil's studio, these scenes Walter Greaves documented would have seemed as foreign to them as they do to us now. The era of the Pre-Embankment Chelsea is long gone. This image, Alden's Coal Wharf, and Chelsea Old Church by Walter Greaves, captures the Pre-Embankment Chelsea that Dorian Gray and his companions would never know, but like us, might just about recognise. Moving up north through the towering World's End estate, we stop at its namesake tavern at the start of the King's Road. There are several World's Ends in London, all harking back to a time where these taverns marked the edges of the built-up areas, the last place for a weary traveller to find refreshment before venturing further. We can see how this area has changed through time, with these images of the lost streets. These connecting roads between the World's End and the waterfront were all demolished for the World's End estate in the 1960s. These winding historic streets, Dartry Road, Seaton Street and Luna Street, likely served as paths for the Chelsea waterfront artist to reach the World's End Tavern, a place of entertainment with a long history dating back to the reign of Charles II. It's not hard to imagine these artistic pioneers at the forefront of British art, gathering here for a drink or two. The current building dates from 1897, but earlier iterations of the tavern have stood on this spot for centuries. Like Dorian Gray's portrait, Chelsea's soul has undergone a transformation. The Bohemian haven of the past has given way to a neighbourhood of luxury apartments and high-end shops. Traces of the artistic spirit still linger, galleries showcasing contemporary works, and the occasional studio tucked away on the side street. Yet the influx of wealth has pushed out many of the artists who once called Chelsea home. From its bustling Riverside past to its transformation into an artistic haven, Chelsea's history is a tapestry of change and creativity. And in Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, we see the reflections of this vibrant past, reminding us of the timeless dance between beauty, art, and the passage of time. As Thea Home, actor, writer, and one-time inhabitant of Cheyne Walk, wrote of Chelsea. But is there a Chelsea still which is not the King's Road? Which is not only a heart but a spirit? Where is Chelsea, the Chelsea whose fame grew from century to century, spread abroad by the people who fell under the spell of this Hyde Park on the Thames? It is still on the Thames, though separated from it by an ever-increasing flow of traffic. It still has a beauty of water and sky, and the remains of nostalgic antiquity. This story of transformation isn't unique to Chelsea. In our next episode, we venture into the murky depths of the Victorian docklands, a place where Dorian travels to partake in the vices of the Victorian underworld. And we find that there is more than a little truth to the depiction. See you then.